Happy New Year, Dave. How you doing?
Hi guys, Happy New Year. How's everybody doing?
We're fantastic. I get to watch the Eagles play more. Life is good.
I know it's great, isn't it?
We talked to you last before the season started, I think, and we were saying to you, okay, what have you seen from Nick Sirianni? Because you're the only one who's seen him. Now we've all seen him this whole season, and it's been an amazing roller coaster from the start to where we are now. What's the feeling around the team, and what have you seen?
The feeling is really excited. I mean, it's a team that's won 7 of its last 9 games. It's changed its personality offensively, and it had success doing so. That has a young draft class that's really contributed, a young quarterback who's improved greatly. I mean, it's really been a really nice turnaround from a tough start. 2-5 was not easy. And Nick has been, as I expected him to be, genuine, sticking to what he believes in, no matter how many people think that, playing rock, paper, scissors or making analogies to planting seeds in the ground and having the roots grow beneath the surface, how those were received very skeptically, I think, by a lot of people. But Nick stuck to it, and his team responded and stuck with him. And I think that's a really great credit to him.
I've enjoyed how he's kind of embraced the outrage over it at the time and kind of makes jokes every once in a while about it. Like, he recognizes that there was a reaction to it, but as a coach, he believed in what he was doing and stuck to it. And it looks like these players have completely bought in, whether the outside world liked it or not.
Yep. And that's the whole thing. I mean, they've done so. They've look, I know how everybody feels about this team, and I think that's why going to the playoffs is going to be so exciting to see when they step up in competition. Just where are the Eagles in terms of the NFC hierarchy? So, the team bought in. The mark guys of an organization to me, and I've said this before, every single team goes through a down cycle, and the best franchises come out of that down cycle very quickly. And so the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, went to the playoffs in 18-19, albeit not convincingly, but went to the playoffs. Down year in 2020, bad season, and here they are back in the playoffs. And they've got 3 first-round draft picks next year. So, I mean, the present is very exciting. The future is extremely bright.
You know, Dave, before the season started, when Sirianni first was hired, you came on here before anybody had a chance to actually see what he was like and how he was interacting with the players, and told us and kind of cheered Jason up that you got the impression what we were going to see is players that would be willing to run through a wall for him. How much of that came true? That the players have not just bought into what he's selling, but who he is as a coach.
Oh, agreed, all the way. I mean, that's very apparent. And also, the Eagles have connected, the coaching staff's really connected with the leaders of this team. And I think that's an important component here. The Jason Kelce's, the Lane Johnsons, the Fletcher Coxes, etc., Rodney McLeods, all carried the message from the coach to the locker room, and the players followed. And so, a really good first year, as it looks, 9-7 heading into the finale tomorrow night, and everybody's extremely encouraged. Look, the mark of the truly great coaches is longevity. We know that. Teams are certainly going to spend the offseason looking at what the Eagles have done here. I think Nick's got a lot of creativity. I always remember thinking, Chip Kelly, wow, this is really great. And I remember writing about it the first year. They win the division, they play the Saints, they lose a tough game. And you go, okay, well, that team was really loaded. Now, what does Chip have up his sleeve for round 2? Because everybody's going to scout and be prepared for his tempo and for whatever he ran that 2013 season. And he had nothing else up his sleeve. I really believe Nick has a lot up his sleeve, and he's assembled a nice young coaching staff that related very well to the players. I've seen a lot of young players getting better, and to me, that is a very, very positive sign that the coaching staff is doing the right thing.
You mentioned about adapting the offense, and at one of the press conferences earlier in the season, he talked about his brother who won in high school with 3 different types of teams, with 3 different talent levels, 3 different offenses that they ran. At the time, people are like, why are you talking about your brother? But if you look back at it, he believes in that you really fit your player. So although it took a couple weeks, their ability to use their offensive line and go to the run. Can you talk about what you've seen from these backs and this line in terms of how they've just taken over? I mean, I kept telling Jeff, you can look at who they're beating, but you got like 7 weeks in a row of over 150 yards rushing. That's the NFL still, regardless of who the opponents are.
Well, look, the run game is dominant because the offensive line is dominant. And, I had a conversation with Jeff Stoutland last week, and I asked him what was the strength of the offensive line, and he said their athletic ability to get to the second level. And when you have freaks like Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey and Jordan Mailata, who are big, strong, fast, Landon Dickerson, who's just a creature he's just a young kid who's just a great, great prospect. When you have an offensive line like that, then you can do a lot of things. And so the Eagles have played to the strength of their offense, and that's the offensive line. And all 4 running backs have been contributors.
I wanted to ask you about the defense a little bit. Last week we saw against Washington, they gave up just 82 yards in the second half. But one of the players, his first 12 games, Josh Sweat had 3.5 sacks. In the last 4, he's had 4.5 sacks. Can you talk about his improvement in the defense overall as they've gone on this season and figured out what identity they want to have out there?
Yeah, that's a really good player to bring up because, again, he's one of those young players who's gotten better. And I think when what we've seen from Jonathan Gannon, and I think the defense will be severely tested in the playoffs, and it'll give the Eagles a really good indication of where they are with this D. But when Jonathan Gannon has brought some pressure inside, it's allowed Josh Sweat to have a little bit more space on the edge, and he's just gotten better and better. And he really destroyed Washington last week, and that was great to see. He led the charge defensively. Loved seeing it from him. Young player, that 2018 draft class, pretty interesting that they traded away the first-round pick, and the Baltimore Ravens picked up Lamar Jackson. And the Eagles have signed all of those draft picks except for Matt Pryor, whom they traded to the Indianapolis Colts. So, Sweat is one of those young guys that you kind of, you really have to build around, and I think the Eagles are trying to do that defensively. I think the defense needs a lot more help. I think they know that, but Josh Sweat is somebody who can really be a force off the edge.
Well, before we get to the playoffs, there is a game tomorrow night. I hope you're already breaking out your long johns for a night game on Saturday night at the beginning of January. What are we going to actually see tomorrow? It doesn't look like the Eagles have too much to play for. Same with the Cowboys, and so many players are in and out of protocols. What's tomorrow night going to look like, and what's the strategy for the Eagles? Is it just to make sure everybody comes out of the game healthy?
I mean, that's an important part of it, obviously. I don't know what Nick is going to do. I mean, in the past, obviously, we've seen coaches take this week and give the players a chance to rest. So that's kind of what I was raised in. So that's what I kind of have always thought a coach would do and should do. I don't know. You can't rest every single starter, but there still are 11 players in the protocol. And some of them are key starters. And so it's going to be tough for them to get back and play. And so we're going to see, I guess, a lot of backups. I mean, I can't imagine if Lane Johnson's out, and I guess Kelsey's active now, or at least off the reserve list, but I'm not sure I'm putting Jalen Hurts out and have every starter. So we'll see. I mean, look, I think that there's a lot of young players here. This is an opportunity for them to play. This game does not have an impact in any significance in terms of their playoff seeding. The Eagles aren't going like, hey, we'd rather play this team than that team. So my sense is that we'll see a lot of young players line up for both teams, but I really haven't gotten any sort of clear indication from Nick, from the coaching staff on that quite yet.
I annoyed Jeff plenty with the Carson Wentz watch for where that draft pick would end up this season as I followed along. You mentioned they have 3 draft picks now. How important is it to not only have those 3 draft picks, but develop this culture going to the playoffs, to actually have that validation that the things you put in place got you where you wanted to go, and you can just keep building on that?
Yeah, it's a great launching point. Again, the Eagles have rebounded from a really bad 2020 and are back in the postseason. And they've got a raft of 2021 draft picks who've played extremely well. The 2020 class has contributed a lot. And they've got all these draft picks, not just the 3 picks, but like 10 in the first 5 rounds. So there's a lot of draft. And by the way, a ton of cap room. They were able to survive this Carson Wentz trade and take the cap hit and really, really smartly work the salary cap and sign players like Anthony Harris, who's been a big addition, and they signed Flacco and then dealt him for a draft pick. So just a lot of really good moves, maybe some under the radar that I think are going to pay off for this football team. And I do agree, 2021 is the launch point of a new generation for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, but it's not just a launch point. This isn't just a growth moment. I don't see Sirianni and this team saying that we're going into the playoffs to grow. I see them coming into this with the confidence that they think they can win. How far do you think that they can go?
Well, if you can run the football, as the Eagles have run the football, now look, the last 2 weeks it's been a little bit tougher sledding. Teams are going to scheme to take stuff away. So Jalen has developed better as a passing quarterback from the pocket. I think that's extremely important. Look, the formula is don't turn the ball over, stay on the field offensively on third downs, get off the field defensively on third downs, and win in the red zone, and you have a chance to win. So every team in the NFC is flawed, and certainly the Eagles are flawed, no question. But if you can run the football like that and you can win at the line of scrimmage and you don't turn the ball over, you know what? You can be very, very competitive. And this team is going in with a great attitude, and I really believe they will be extremely aggressive come next week.
From week one to now, what is the thing that has most impressed you about Jalen Hurts' development as a quarterback?
I think the way he's played from the pocket. And look, he's always been calm, cool, collected. He's always been a leader. He's been able to make plays with his legs. Teams have taken that away a little bit. And, he threw for 296 to beat the Washington football team. And that was a really big moment for him.
Nope, we lost you there, Dave. We lost Dave there for a second.
Sorry, but no, you got me. Sorry, guys. You got me.
No problem.
Stop.
There we go.
No, so I think he's been able to overcome some slow starts. I think he's been able to win from the pocket more. I think he's been able to see the different ways defenses are handling him and trying to take away that running game of his. So all of it, all in all, growth. It's really been and won key games and won in the fourth quarter in some games. And and then look, there have been some slow starts here. He hasn't let that snowball, and I think that's been really important in his development. Also, he has to improve. Everybody does. This is still a 9-7 team. I mean, if we were talking about a 14-2 team, that would be a different conversation. But I have seen the guy started 18 games in his career. It's been very impressive. 19 games in his career. He's been impressive with his growth.
All right. Well, last question from me. I'm going to ask you to play fun general manager now. There's a guy on the that's in free agency right now that the Eagles could sign. Do you want them to sign Antonio Brown?
Are you really asking him that question, Jeff?
No. Doesn't Antonio need ankle surgery?
He needs something.
Who knows? It changes from minute to minute.
Dave, he needs a T-shirt first.
We played that. I remember that. I remember the Terrell Owens years all too well. No need for that anymore.
Yeah, no, and it seems like that's one of the things about this team is the atmosphere and the team kind of concept around this. It's not about the individuals as much as it is about how those pieces fit together and how they can put them together as a team. So
very good point. That's very, very, very much the truth. The sum is greater than the parts. Is that how you would say it, right? That this team has played very good collective team football, and it's been impressive.
They seem to have that same team camaraderie that Super Bowl team had.
I don't know about that. I mean, that team was a different animal. I mean, they were veterans. They'd been together for a couple of years. Carson was an experienced quarterback. They were blowing teams out. I mean, they were the number one seed. I think they have good chemistry here. We'll see. I mean, they've weathered the storm of some really tough moments this year. But I'm not going to compare this team to a team that won the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a just comparison. Yeah. But they do have, but they are developing. It's a younger group here, and they certainly have come together and turned the season around. And I'm really encouraged by that in the short term and certainly in the long term.
Without a doubt. And look, we always appreciate you giving a few minutes to talk about it in the short term and the long term. We hope you stay warm tomorrow night in the Dallas game. Yeah, wish you the best.
Well, I've got one of my career highlights tomorrow. I'm doing the PA announcing from the broadcast booth. So that'll be one assignment. And then I'm coming down to the field for halftime and doing play-by-play of the Frisbee dog competition. So okay, it really doesn't get better than that.
I might have to publicize this interview afterwards as interview with for the Frisbee dog contest.
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
thanks.
I'm gonna watch Best in Show all night long and just get ready for it.
We know you'll be ready. You have a great time down there.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Happy New Year to everybody. Take care.
Take it easy.
Take care. Happy New Year.